but I wasn't quite the same person then that I am now. They were all over there. And a spiritual conversation broke out. And I'm just going to be honest with y'all. We spent a lot of time talking about video games and girls and what we're going to do on the weekend. We didn't talk about spiritual things very much. And so two of my buddies are sitting on the couch, and they're begin this spiritual conversation. One of my buddies had grown up in church, was proclaimed to be a Christian, and he began to talk to my buddy about, you have a need for Jesus and stuff like that. And I was enjoying it. I'm like, yeah, you do, because you're a heathen. You need some Jesus. And he said these words, and I'll never forget this because it just struck me. My buddy who's not a Christian was sitting there and going, I just don't understand the rules. Like the rules seem really dumb. And my friend says to this other buddy, my friend who's a Christian says to my buddy who's not a Christian, he says, that's the thing. He said, when you truly come to know Jesus, he will change what you want. And I agree with that statement 100%. He had been taught that. He had been trained in that. Now I'm going to tell you why that statement didn't take effect. Because both of them in the midst of this conversation were blackout drunk. There's no reason that we go to somebody and tell them Jesus will change your life, but then we don't live it. Because then what we're communicating to them is I'm telling you, you need your life to change, but my life that looks just like yours is okay. That's a confusing statement. That's a way to confuse people. And so our first step, if we're going to witness, is how we witness with our actions. Your next take-home truth, number 5, is to spread the gospel. Our identities must be shaped by the gospel. See, when Jesus gave us the Great Commission, when he called us to make disciples, there's an underlying understanding that you yourself are already a disciple who has been transformed. That you are living differently than the world, and that you are living so differently that it's obvious to those that you share the gospel with. Listen to how Jesus, this is Matthew chapter 5 if you want to turn there. Listen to how Jesus talked about how we share the gospel, how we appear to the world. This is verses 14 through 16. Jesus says this, he says, you are the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hid. Neither do men light a candle and put it under a bushel, but on a candlestick. And it gives light unto all that are in the house. Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works. Now listen, that statement is true, but the reason we do that statement, listen to the next part. And glorify your Father which is in heaven. Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and that they will glorify your Father which is in heaven. See, Jesus calls us in our actions and how we live as the light of the world. Think about the nature of light for a second. Think about what Jesus is saying about you and me and who we should be when we go out when he calls us the light of the world. Number 1 is wherever there is light, there is no darkness. You can light one match in a dark room and it will throw light all throughout the darkness. And where there is light, the darkness flees. When we are Christians, when we are the light of the world, we illuminate the darkness. We let people see what is unseen. Darkness and light cannot exist together, and light always wins. Secondly, light is comforting in unsure times. Light is a comforting thing. How many of you grew up with a nightlight? Yeah, some of you guys are like, I still have one. Yeah, we have one too. It's okay. Like night lights are comforting when you're scared. If you go to Silver Dollar City, there's a cavern at the beginning of the city. It's actually what Silver Dollar City was built on. And when I was young, we went in the cavern and we got right to that beyond, you can't turn back point before I got scared and decided I didn't want to do this anymore. And I remember being really scared and I was kind of panicking and I was crying a little bit. It's okay, I was 25, so I was younger. But I was panicking a little bit, and this older, I can't remember if it was a man or a lady, but I remember somebody had rented a flashlight. And they came and they offered it to me. And just knowing that flashlight was available, just knowing that light was there, was a comfort enough for me that it settled me down. What is I going to do with a flashlight if, a bat attacked me? Nothing. But light has a comforting effect in uncertain times. And light also has an attractive warmth. I don't know what it is about human beings. I could spend the rest of my life, I could go without eating, I could go without TV, I could go without my phone, if you would build me a campfire and just let me stare at it for the rest of my life. What is it about light that attracts us? But it does. Some years ago, my dad and his family, we were going off on a vacation. I think I had to work that day, and so I come down later. We were going down to visit some family in Texas. They had like a little beach house, or not beach house, a lake house down there. And when I got down there, it was like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, and my dad's sitting out on the dock fishing. And I'm like, we're not fishing at 1 o'clock in the morning. This is weird. He said, no, this is the best time. My uncle's there. This is the best time to fish. And at this particular house, they had taken an underwater light, and about 30 foot off the dock, there was just this glow of light. And he said, what happens is at nighttime, that light attracts the fish, and if you will take your rod and reel and cast across it and drag your lure across that light, all those fish are hanging out around the light, and that's how you catch them at night. It's actually better fishing at nighttime here than it is in the day. We're attracted to light, and men are the same way. You know, it interests me with that story. What did Jesus call his disciples? He said, follow me and I will make you fishers of men. See, light is attractive to people. And if you don't believe me, if you say, I don't think light is attractive, I've got a challenge for you. On December 20th or thereabouts, at about 6 o'clock at night on a Saturday, I challenge you to go drive to Batesville when the Christmas display is up. It is miserable. Thousands of cars from all over the state, sometimes from other states, attracted to Batesville. Why? Light. We are the light of the world. And so what Jesus is saying in this statement is he's saying, go into all of the world, shine in the darkness, comfort others in unsure times, and let the warmth of your personality attract others to me. Everywhere you go, you can do this. It doesn't matter if you're going to the pharmacy, if you're going to work, to the doctor's office. It doesn't matter if you're going to the DMV, because those people need some light sometimes, let me just say. It doesn't matter where you go, you can do this. My uncle Johnny, who died a couple years ago, my Uncle Johnny was a construction worker. When he was saved in 1999, he couldn't read, didn't have a GED or anything. He was actually learning to read so he could read the Bible. But he had a transformational moment where he went from jail and drugs to a powerhouse for Christ. And one of the last times I talked to him before he passed away, he said, Brian, it's such a blessing. Now I'm the old man on the construction job sites, and I have all of these boys who are leaving home for the first time, and their life's falling apart, and something's wrong with their marriage. He said, and they call me Grandpa Coates. And everybody knows at the job sites that I work at, Grandpa Coates will hug you, he will listen to you, and he will pray for you. He said, that is such an opportunity for me to share Christ. And when he died, we found boxes of these. He had these cards printed out. I keep this one in my Bible. And it simply says, what should you know? First, you need to be saved. Second, you cannot save yourself. Third, Jesus has provided for your salvation. Fourth, you must accept Jesus as salvation. Fifth, now is the time to accept Jesus as Savior. And then it explains what to do with all the Bible verses associated with that. A bulldozer driver, a light in his own realm of influence. That's what God calls us to do. To be that. Number 6 is that being a light means you will stand out in the darkness. See, people will see you. You know, for as much as that cave scared me when I was little, now that I'm older, I love caves. It's my favorite thing to do, Jessica and I, when we were dating, especially before we had a kid. Anytime we went somewhere that had a cave, we wanted to go in the cavern. And every cavern I've ever been in does the same thing. They say something real smart alecky like, let me show you what the cavern really looks like. And then they go flip off the lights just out of surprise, you know, because they're nice like that. And in that moment, darkness surrounds you. There's a kind of darkness that makes it hard to see. There's a darkness that feels like a fog that surrounds you. And that's what you find in the caverns of the Ozarks. And in that moment, any small amount of light commands your attention. Somebody moves and their watch comes on and everybody looks at it. Heaven forbid somebody pulls their phone out. It's like Jesus is coming back with the brightness of it in there. Like every little bit of light just stands out. And so if we're going to be light going into a dark world, going into the mission field, we will attract attention. We will be different. We will stand out. And we hate that. See, we love conformity. We love to fit in, to feel like we're accepted into society. That's why some of you, ladies, I'm going to pick on y'all. That's why some of you this morning are wearing shoes that really, really hurt your feet. But your best friend at work had a pair of just like them, and they looked really cute, and so I thought they'd look cute on me, and I'd wear them. Tell me I'm wrong. I'll put myself in that. I would love to be in flip-flops right now, but there's a social convention that says preachers cannot wear flip-flops when they preach, so I'm not wearing flip-flops. We don't like to stand out. We don't like to be different. Kids are the worst about trends, and they come up with some of the dumbest trends. Jesus is coming back. Silence. Kids come up with dumb trends. Amen. Woo. Man, these kids get these words, and every year there's a new word for junior high kids that they come up with, and they say it until it drives you insane, and you're like, Jesus, hush. A few years ago it was ratchet. That's ratchet. Everything's ratchet. Your clothes are ratchet. That meant bad in some way. A few years ago it was cap. That's cap. That means you're lying. 50 times a period. That's cap. Don't say that. Yes, no, it's true. Seriously, there was a World War II. It's not cap. Like they come up with these trends. And we do the same thing others do because we like to fit in. But listen, you are not like the world. You are meant to stand out. See, we a lot of times think that standing out is negative, but if you completely blend into the world, you will never impact it. History lesson time. I've got a picture coming up here. This is Mr. Winston Churchill. If you don't know Winston Churchill, he was prime minister, that's like their president of Great Britain, during World War II. Prior to World War II, in the years before the actual war started, Europe realized they had a Hitler problem. This guy is taking over a little bit of everything. And so they were trying to figure out, how do we stop Hitler without going to war with him? And the previous prime minister to Winston Churchill was named Neville Chamberlain. And he went and met with Hitler, and this is what Hitler said. He said, I've taken a little bit of land here and there. If you will let me have it, I will be happy, and then I will no longer have a need to take land, and then it will just have peace. That's called appeasement. And so all the leaders of Europe went along with this, okay? Let him have what he's taken, and then we'll be happy, and that will end it. It's kind of like that book. You guys have read that book, If You Give a Mouse a Cookie. If you give a mouse a cookie, he'll want a glass of milk. If you give him a glass of milk, he'll want a pancake. Give him a pancake, he'll want a Ferrari. It just keeps going. That's what it was like with Hitler. And just months before Hitler invades Poland, starting off the Second World War, Neville Chamberlain comes back to Great Britain and he gives this big speech. Dumbest thing said in history. I have secured peace in our time. Months before the 7-year war that claimed over 230 million lives. But there was one voice in all of Britain, while everybody else cheered, there was one voice in all of Britain who was not very popular, and it said, yeah, that's not going to work. Winston Churchill said this, you had to choose between war and dishonor. You chose dishonor, so you will have war. See, he stood out. But listen, when things got real in the middle of the war, when Hitler was breathing down the neck of crossing the English Channel and taking over Great Britain, who did they turn to? Winston Churchill. And he is largely regarded as, if not the most influential person in the 20th century, one of, and he is usually on the most influential people in all of history kind of list, because he was willing to stand out. See, to stand out is a positive when the norm is negative. And let me tell you something about right now. Our world is so negative. I'm so tired of hatred. So tired of people sacrificing their families and their children on the altars of success. We don't want to be like the world. It's a dirty, nasty, dark place. We should stand out. We should be the light. 1 Peter 2:9 says this about Christians, that Jesus died to gather unto himself a group of peculiar people. That means odd, weird, different. And this is what makes them different, that they are zealous, that means excited, of good works. And it's interesting that good works is exactly what Jesus refers to when he says, letting your light shine in verse 16. See, when we do certain things, we point to God. And God's plan is for us to be different. God's plan is for us to shine so that he can put us up on a pedestal and show us to the rest of the world. Jesus even says it. Do you light a candle and put it under a basket? No, that's silly. You light a candle in the darkness and you put it up on a lampstand where everybody can see it. And that's God's plan with you. His plan is not to hide you and your differences. His plan is to exalt you and elevate you in plain sight. And what he wants to do to the world is he wants to take you and stand you up and say, you see this? This is a Christian. This is what life should be like. While everybody else is walking around in selfishness and taking advantage of other people, look at this Christian, loving and caring and putting others' needs in front of theirs. This person walks into work every single day and they seem to have a little bit of joy, and everybody else seems miserable. When everybody else panics, this person is a source and a steady supply of peace. And when the world is evil, everybody looking out for themselves, you can see the good works of this person. And the effect of that is that people will glorify God. Number 7 on your take-home truths. The effect of living as a light is that others will glorify God. And so God's plan is that when we walk out in the world, that people will be like, look at that Ashley. Look at that Denise. Look at that Larry. Look at that Leo. There's something about them. They're a little weird. Every time we start gossiping around the water cooler and talking about how much we hate our boss, they walk away. You remember that time that so-and-so was having financial problems and we were all like, yeah, that's what happens when you spend your money like you do, but yet they showed up with an envelope full of money and said, let me help you through your hard time. That was odd. Yeah, they're different, but there's something real about the way that they're different. And it causes people to think maybe there is a God who does transform lives. See, for some people in the world, the only view of God they will ever get is you and me. They're not going to open their Bibles and go looking for him because they're bored. They're not going to find him in the world. They can't know him like we know him until we introduce them to him. And you are in constant view, and they're constantly confronted with the character of God in you. You know what the word Christian means? It means to be Christ-like. So when people see you, you should be putting off a picture of who Jesus Christ is to the world. One more story today. I'm an ice cream aficionado. I don't know if you know what that means. That means I like a lot of ice cream. And actually, I'm not an aficionado. I like chocolate ice cream. But when you go to an ice cream shop, and I've ate them all, every one in Batesville, including the one in the gas station, what they'll do is they'll always have little plastic spoons or little wooden spoons, and they'll offer you, do you want to try one? And they'll give you a taste of one that looks like it's really cool, and what they're trying to do is give you a taste of it so you'll say, I like that ice cream, and then you'll cheat on chocolate with the new ice cream. The ideal is if they can give you a taste that it may entice you to want a little bit more. When you shine for Jesus, what you're doing is giving the world a taste of his love and his goodness. That's what we are called to do. That's what we're about to leave and do here in just a few minutes. So let me ask you this. Well, actually, then and only then can we tell them what Christ did for us. I'm different because I was lost and now I'm found. I serve because he served. I love because he loved. I was in darkness and he brought me into light. I was a slave to sin and he purchased me on the cross. And you can have that too. So now let me ask you this question. Is that how you shine when you leave here? Because it's what God calls us to. Is to shine in the world. Is that what we focus on? Is that what we do when we go to our places of work, when we go home? Do we plan to shine for Jesus Christ? And you may be sitting here today, and I just really believe that God works in a lot of ways when we open up his word. You may be sitting here today, and I bet you that you're sitting there, and there's probably been something on your heart that said, I don't shine because I keep doing this. What Jesus is calling us to do, what God is calling us to do is change who we are, so we can shine for him more. Brother Danny, Miss Glenita. See, maybe today, maybe the point of this message is just to remind us to be practical about going to work, going into the world, and having an idea that I want to show Jesus to people just in the way that I live. But he may also be convicting us that, hey, you're a church member and you show up every Sunday, but you can't shine for me because you don't actually know me. If that's you today, as I offer every Sunday, I want you to know salvation is available to you. And I hope that the other followers of Christ in your life have shown you that it's a necessity to know Christ and what he can do for you. But maybe you're like me and you've been saved. And you get a little gray and tired and you don't always live for him. Maybe today is the day that you want to just come lay that at Christ's feet and say, hey, I'm tired of this sin creeping up in my life. I'm tired of going to work and being selfish. I want to show you to the world and ask him, and listen, he will shine through you. No matter what God's calling you to do, don't leave here the same way that you walked in. Let's stand and worship.